Hi, I want to welcome everybody back to another session of Views from the Field. And we're blessed to be joined today, and I really mean blessed, with Dr. Helen Davis, who I've gotten to know over the last few years. And we're doubly blessed because Helen's actually joining us today from her vacation in Cabo San Lucas in Mexico. So thank you, Helen. Thank you for being here. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here. And thank you, Allan, for the invitation to be present.
You're most welcome. Again, it's our pleasure. Let's see. I think in the way of a brief introduction, I'll just name a few things: that you are a psychotherapist, mindfulness teacher, and writer. And we're going to be looking specifically today at some of your writing, which is part of the blessing. And you're a cognitive therapist specializing in trauma, anxiety, and complicated grief, depression, utilizing EMDR and mindfulness compassionately, working to help bring about healing. You're teaching at the psychiatric centers at San Diego, PCSD, and the UC San Diego Center for Mindfulness, the UCSD CFM. So as I mentioned, we'll be looking at your writing. A good part of our time today will be looking at some of your very lovely and beautiful poetry. And I'd like to begin actually by coming back to this phrase, complicated grief, if you don't mind. Yeah, I'm not a therapist, of course, so I'm not specifically familiar with that term, but most curious about it. So what is complicated grief?
Well, there could be the grief of a single person in the family dying, or a friend, or a pet. It becomes complicated for a couple of, and probably even more reasons, when sometimes there are more deaths together, maybe 3 deaths in the last 6 months or the last year. Or maybe the person was there holding them when they died. And that makes it complicated because it's a bit more than my cousin passed. She was ill and that happened. There's more involved, and then if there's more than one, and then your pet dies on top of it, that brings about more. And then you didn't get a chance, really, to grieve over the one that happened before, to process that before another one happens, and then another one happens. And that takes it a deeper and stronger, and it becomes complicated.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Helen. I thought it might be something along those lines, almost like multiple traumas that create the complicated grief. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So moving back now to your poetry. When did that first appear for you? When did you first begin writing poetry?
When I was a child.
Yeah.
I remember waking up in the middle of the night. I kept a pad by my bed, and I would wake up and I would write either on poetry or a short story. And I don't want to forget this. I don't want to forget this until in the morning. Wake up, write it now. And then I'd wake up and jot down the next thing that was to come in the story. Because sometimes when I'm writing, I say, oh, is that what comes next? Because I didn't know before. I didn't know before it hit the mind and the pen began to write, or the the fingers began to type. Oh, that's what happens. But I was a child.
So it sounds like the emotion I'm feeling from you is a joyful discovery. Oh, this is what's here. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Yes.
how did it continue from childhood?
Well, it continued. I have actually written books that I've not put out for publication, but I've written books that I have there, and then I started with poems. I think that I found a poem the other day that I wrote, and it says, has my name, 2006. So it's just, and I'm inspired also by certain things that come about. So, for instance, the poem that I will be um, presenting here today, I wrote that poem for UCSD Black History Month 2 years ago. So it was Black History Month. I said, oh, gee, I think it'd be nice to write a book for this. And that's what came. And I say that's what came because it's not me trying to find the words to put the words down. It's what comes. And then I write it down and then I may massage it a bit, but it's what appears.
Yeah. So moving through you, would you call it divine inspiration?
I believe it is divine inspiration. Um, I'm not sure what anyone's faith is, but I believe that God told me once, you are a writer. I want you to write. You are a writer. So I said, okay, then I will write. Yeah.
When did that revelation come to you?
That saying, huh, maybe a couple of years ago,
Okay.
God said, you are a writer, and I want you to write. So now I want to honor that by going forward and presenting for publication. So I am writing a book on mindfulness inclusive poems that I plan to publish. So that's a purposeful adventure, but I'm allowing God to tell me what the poems are and what are the words in the poems.
Well, we'll look forward to that. You mentioned mindfulness. So when did that move into the mix of your life?
A long time ago.
Yeah,
I'll tell you the story
please.
if you don't mind.
Love it.
It was a vision that I had, or just something that came to mind. And what I saw is a lot of people standing on land, meditating, and the earth was crumbling down and falling down around them. I can still see the image in my mind of everyone, not everyone, because there were people that were but on the earth, meditating together as though we were holding up the earth. The part around us was crumbling and falling down. And I thought at that time, I had been thinking about meditating. So I think I better do it. I better meditate. And I joined a community at that time. And it was a very wonderful time. We cooked food together. We meditated together and just spent time playing music, reading. And that's how my journey began. And then it continued, meditating. And then as I became a psychotherapist, I started teaching all kinds of things around meditation. Relaxation therapy, guided imageries, all kinds of things like that. Until one day I said, they have that program over at UCSD. I think I'll go over there and maybe learn this stuff for real and see what that's about. So I started taking classes over at UCSD.
Yeah, wow. I just want to hold that revelation for a moment of humanity sitting around meditating as the earth is crumbling. Feels a bit real. A little bit too real. Well, Helen, I think maybe this is a good moment to share the poem. So the video of your poem, which you just presented at the Mind and Life Summer Research Institute, and also created a wonderful poster of it, which we'll be taking a look at after the video. So with your permission, I'd like to share the recording.
Thank you so much. I would love for everyone to hear, to see that.
Hi, thank you for coming, for being here. I'd like to just begin with a poem that I wrote on inclusivity, and just a statement I'd like to make about oneness, that we are all one human race, and that each person is equal, and that each person is meaningful and has a space in this life, a place for us to be in accompaniment with each other. I'd like for you to think about this as I read the poem. And also, where it says I or my, please put yourself in that place. You may choose to lower your eyelids at this time and open up the entire body as a receptacle, widening the ears. As I read the poem, I weave my strand. I weave my strand in the tapestry of life and take my space among the stars. The color of my skin, the shape of my eyes, the texture of my hair, my gender, an expression of the uniqueness of my being as I weave my strand. And allowing yourself to put yourself in the place where it says I or mine. Choreographing my place in the weave of life. The harmony of my life is transformed by everything that touches me. My imprint is upon everything my strand touches. Fulfilling the purpose of my unique self among the beautiful, vibrant shapes, textures, and colors. There I am, weaving my piece in life's design for this moment, then the next moment, and the next moment, touching hearts and minds in my life and others, fulfilling my place in the weave of life. I find peace in knowing I am here for a specific endeavor. Here, in the weave of life, I am more than enough. As I find my place in this life, I take my space among the stars, weaving my strand in the tapestry of life. Thank you for listening.
It's such a beautiful video and lovely music.
Bobbie Allen is the artist. And actually, at their studio, they provide lessons to the underserved community.
Thank you for mentioning Bobbie Allen. And thank Bobbie Allen for us. Do you think it might be of use to share the poster as you might unpack the poem a little bit for us?
I would love to share the poster. The poster was presented there at Mind and Life. I originally was just applying to get a chance to go. And as I was doing that, they said you can send in a poster presentation report. So I sent the poster thinking, well, I'll send the poem. I said, they'll just put it up on a poster or something. And then that all turned into, as I worked on that, a little bit of a research project. And this is the poem, the poster. And what I was wondering about is, can the reading of poetry introducing individuals to messages of togetherness bring about feelings of belonging, inclusivity, and a sense of connectedness? Because of the ideas that acceptance of diversity is oneness, that everyone is meaningful, and really that separate belongingness and lack of inclusivity and othering can bring about suffering, really for everyone. So wanted to do this and wrote these questions. I was there. Was there a greater awareness of inclusivity or being a part of the whole? So as you listened to that poem and heard that poem, was there a greater awareness of inclusivity or being a part of the whole? The second question, after hearing or reading the poem, did you feel a sense of greater connectedness? And the third question, were you able to acknowledge your piece in the weave of life? Okay.
And as you presented this, was this in a hall with posters that people walked around and?
Well, it was actually online. It would have been in a hall except for COVID.
Right.
And the poster would have been up as people walked around. There were 300 people, and there were 40 posters, and I'm grateful to have been chosen as one of the posters. So we held a Zoom meeting, each person 20 on one day and 20 on another day. And the Zoom, at the Zoom, we presented our poster. We shared what our rationale was, and people had an opportunity to ask questions. And for me, I wanted them to answer this question, these 3 questions.
Yeah.
So during that Zoom meeting, people listened as I read, and then they also answered these questions. And then the recording was also up. People could listen to that recording who did not make it to, because obviously how can you make it? There are 300 people and 40 posters. So how can you make it to every poster? But there was a recording. That's why I had to do the recording. And people listened to the recording and then answered the questions for those who could not make it to the Zoom meeting.
Yeah. And what did you discover from their answers? This anecdotal evidence of research.
I would love to not say that until I hear from the group.
Okay.
I would love to hear that from the group. And then
Yeah, maybe we could at this point put a few comments in chat, and we'll go through that. So we could all take a moment, and we'll invite you at home right now, and perhaps we'll play the video again as we go, and then we'll put the poster back.
Hi, thank you for coming, for being here. I'd like to just begin with a poem that I wrote on inclusivity, and just a statement I'd like to make about oneness, that we are all one human race, and that each person is equal, and that each person is meaningful and has a space in this life, a place for us to be in accompaniment with each other. I'd like for you to think about this as I read the poem. And also, where it says I or my, please put yourself in that place. You may choose to lower your eyelids at this time and open up the entire body as a receptacle, widening the ears. As I read the poem, I weave my strand. I weave my strand in the tapestry of life and take my space among the stars. The color of my skin, the shape of my eyes, the texture of my hair, my gender, an expression of the uniqueness of my being as I weave my strand. And allowing yourself to put yourself in the place where it says I or mine. Choreographing my place in the weave of life. The harmony of my life is transformed by everything that touches me. My imprint is upon everything my strand touches. Fulfilling the purpose of my unique self among the beautiful, vibrant shapes, textures, and colors. There I am, weaving my piece in life's design for this moment, then the next moment, and the next moment. touching hearts and minds in my life and others, fulfilling my place in the weave of life. I find peace in knowing I am here for a specific endeavor. Here, in the weave of life, I am more than enough. As I find my place in this life, I take my space among the stars, weaving my strand in the tapestry of life. Thank you for listening.
I want to check in with everybody here. If you'd like to report on camera, if you just raise your hand. I think we have Linda.
So the way it hit me generally was that it was like a beautiful guided meditation that just allowed me to to feel very much included in something larger than myself, which I think I sometimes feel in meditation practice. And in terms of the questions, it was sort of like yes, yes, no the first time, and yes, yes, yes the second time. Yeah, I love the part about, of course, I would love to see it, have it in my hands, the poem, but the idea of the stars, there's millions of stars, and we see them as far away or as tiny as, and it's kind of hard to explain, but I just felt like, yes, I'm part of the universe, as little as I might be in comparison. I still have my place. And so I don't have to prove anything or create anything special. It made me feel like just being alive and being a person with the intention of kindness was enough. So I hope that was clear enough.
Yes, very, very clear. And thank you so much for sharing that. Even the tiniest, even the smallest, a part of it all.
Thank you, Linda. Do we have anybody else like to share?
Helen, I'm just really touched that you chose poetry to express these ideas. And I really think poetry and mindfulness, they're so related, but just a little different. And poetry comes from a depth, that you've brought up to express it. And it's a great way to help achieve unity of vision, unity of oneness, through culture, through art. So I really, poetry as a vehicle, I just, float. When somebody reads poetry, I float. And I was floating with your poem. And so it was easy for me to feel part of something much bigger than myself, part of humanity, and how, as you say, we're all, we're weaving. We're just, a beautiful, beautiful tapestry hanging there. And then to really feel part of the cosmos, of even bigger, and that we all, have a place with our uniqueness, our individuality, and we're more than enough. So what a beautiful poem.
Thank you so much. So glad that inspired you to the idea of oneness and even beyond humanity, right? Yes.
How about one more? Anybody else? Oh, man, thank you.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, definitely. The greater awareness of inclusivity. I think the line that the whole poem does, but the line that specifically uh, opened that up most for me was the harmony of my life is transformed by everything that touches me. My imprint is upon everything my strand touches. That line, those lines really helped me deepen in an already deepening process of feeling that inclusivity and being connected.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much, Nan, and thank you for mentioning the harmony, because as we weave our way through life, there are other strands that are there weaving also. We're part of the whole picture. And thank you for saying that.
Okay, thank you. Chris, do you want to voice your thoughts?
First line especially spoke to me because there have been so many images of the far reaches of the universe with the most recent telescope and just incredible images. And I heard one of the scientists the other day referred to what we were seeing is the source of the oxygen that is all of us. And you know, I guess these days with so much pain evident in the world, that even to be reminded of being something bigger than the earth was just a lovely reminder.
Thank you very much, Chris. Valerie, did you have your hand up? I saw you raising.
So, no, I didn't. But now that you call on me, Helen, I love poetry, and I think it opens the heart, which opens the mind and the body and each other. And I think it's just beautiful what you wrote. And thank you so much for sharing that. I think it does everything you may have been looking for it to do in terms of inclusivity and connection and beauty. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie, for those words. Thank you, everyone, for your wonderful comments. And it's okay also to say, if you didn't feel inclusivity, would be interested in that as well.
Yeah, thank you, Helen. Let's move to Helen, asking you if you have another poem you could share with us.
I do. I wrote this poem about maybe 2 or 3, couple months ago, and I added to it last night and this morning. So I will read it. It is called Here. And providing an opportunity, an invitation to close the eyes or lower the eyelids, whichever seems most right for you, for the reading of this poem. It is called Here. Sun burst through the horizon, and an ocean of pinkness presented itself, dancing high above the ocean waves, slow dancing, each movement transforming a new figure, a new vision, a new now. What's present in this magnificent moment? What's present deep within, underneath the covers? A closer eye reveals here, skin, bones, brain and heart, body and soul, matter and energy, earth and water, sun and air, all here together, bursting through, awakening to what has passed, what is present here, what is to come, all here in this moment, dancing together.
Well, that's a wonderful segue towards what I used to call the 40,000-foot view, but now I'm going to call it, the Webb telescope view into the future around inclusivity, and your thoughts and feelings about that. It's a big topic right now in the field of mindfulness program, field of every aspect of society and the world. So, any general thoughts as to where we're headed in these controversial, somewhat challenging times around inclusivity?
Any challenging times there? Yes, these times are, current times are challenging.
Yeah.
Inclusivity has been always, all of my life and before my life, challenging. I believe that we're on a path to help bring about inclusivity, especially with mindfulness. It's helping to bring people together and helping us to have acceptance of diversity and individual differences in people. So I believe that it's on the way, going to take a while to get here because there's a lot to work through because of so much that has happened to separate us.
Yeah, in a way, I'm struck by where we began with, complex grieving. It's very complex, at least. I don't know if we're grieving around it, but
I think there's a lot to grieve because different ways of being, different assuming of positions in life. There's a lot to give up.
Yeah.
And then, of course, that giving up and letting go would then need to be grieved.
Yeah. Do you have a sense that, of course, it starts with us individually, and then it moves outward? And the sense I have, and then I'll ask you your sense of it, is that it's needed in the field of mindfulness programs and mindfulness organizations. And in some ways, this is touching home to me in the thread that I feel I'm moving towards weaving in whatever minute way that might unfold towards these sessions and this community doing something towards the common good around moving past the othering that takes place in the field.
Yes. Yes.
So we have to look at ourselves, I feel.
I agree, Allan, is that we start with ourselves. And are we othering? One question we might ask.
Mm-hmm.
Is that person considered the other?
Mm-hmm.
Or are they considered to be as equal, as meaning? And if they are the other, then we would perhaps need to ask ourselves, how come? Why? Can we see some commonality? Can we allow ourselves to open up to what is present in all of us? And that we really all are good enough. I think each person has something to offer. I mean, just as a beautiful bouquet of flowers. One may be a lily and one may be a rose and, one may be a chrysanthemum. However, together it presents a very beautiful bouquet. And I feel that our human race is like that. That altogether we present this very beautiful picture in harmony together. And not only that, even beyond that as well, to include everything else that is here too. And as someone, Chris, said, and you said the Linda, the universe, a reminder of that. And Chris said the first line hooked me. So many images recently of far-reaching of the universe and the stars being born. I appreciate the reminder that I am part of this unfathomable universe, not alone, not in charge of the unfolding, not alone, here all together.
Thank you, Chris. And Helen, thank you. Thank you from my heart for taking the time out, your vacation, to be with us today, to bring us this wonderful message of inclusion. Please thank your husband for me.
I will. He's out on the patio having coffee. I will thank him.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone for being here. And I have so enjoyed this time together. And thank you, Allan, for the opportunity to share the vision of inclusivity through the poems. And thank you, Mark, for helping to make it all possible. And just really appreciate. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And, thanks for viewing this video if you've watched it. And we'll look forward to seeing you again at another video that you might watch of views from the field. So everybody, take good care and much hope for peace and harmony in the world as we move towards inclusion.
Click down below to join our Mindfulness Teacher Community Network on Facebook, where you are invited to post and share. Also, subscribe to Sing to the Mountain Studio. Ring the bell so you don't miss out on future recordings.